if you're stressing over your first pages, your first sentence, your first anything, just like let it go. Like the jury's still out on the first paragraph. I like some of what I have, but I also feel like I could potentially make it more personality driven, or like I just feel like this book has to be perfect, but it can't be perfect because guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. We are in the middle of my rewriting diaries, rewriting episode, but we have been replotting this book and now we are in the rewriting portion of this series of publishing my first book. I have entirely replotted my fantasy romance book after getting a lot of feedback on the series, the structure of my book, the whole thing. I'm currently working on chapter 1. I wish it was way further along, but we're at the beginning of this. I have completed the first, I would say 3 or 4 pages are exactly how I want them. They have been read by multiple friends and family. They have gone through pro writing aid to look for passive voice, weird grammar things, anything like that I might have done. So they are grammatically correct for the most part. And I've had multiple different people read it to tell me if things are confusing. I've made a lot of changes based on that. There were a lot of confusing things apparently. So it has taken like, I think I worked on this for maybe 2 weeks and then I've taken 2 weeks off to deal with some personal things, like the fact that we are in a new location, which I will be in lots of different new locations from here on out because my home is being renovated, remediated from mold. So took a couple weeks off to fix that problem. Yeah, so we are now back to rewriting my fantasy book and we are on chapter 1. Today's goal is I have maybe 2 pages of new content that I need to write in order for it to fit in with this chapter. And then I have maybe like 3 pages, 4 pages of previously written content that I just need to fit into chapter 1 and make sure it all is like cohesive and edited. And then we will be done with chapter 1, finally. This chapter gave me the biggest headache it has for pretty much ever since like I started this book. I really struggle with the openers of books for some reason. I think I just get way too in my head and I worry like, is this a good enough first sentence? Is this an interesting enough first page? Are readers gonna put the book down because they don't like it enough? Like there's a lot of things that go through my head when I'm writing the first part and it's very negative thought processes, a lot of imposter syndrome, all that kind of stuff. I had a lot of different people read it and everyone's consensus was this is interesting and I would like to keep reading. I think I've just written the book for so long that I do not find the opener interesting, like necessarily. It's like interesting, but it's not the most interesting thing that happens in my book, which it shouldn't be. So I just get like, I want you to know like what's gonna happen later on, but it doesn't make sense. You have to understand the main character and the world. We need build up, you know? So I get bored with it because I'm so over it. Probably because I've been looking at it for way too long. So we are working on that. But I guess my takeaway from all of this is that I made this way more difficult than it needed to be. Other people thoroughly enjoyed so far chapter 1, the first few pages, and I am a little crazy. So I think I just feel like this book has to be perfect, but it can't be perfect because A, it's book number 1 and it should not be my best work ever. It'll be my best work when I put it out, but every book after that will just get better and I have so many books that I want to write. So the longer I take to just do this first one, I'm just holding myself back. So if you're stressing over your first pages, your first sentence, your first anything, just like let it go. Get some outside perspective because it's probably not as bad as you think it is. I had like multiple versions for people to read and kind of decide like what's more interesting. But then it's like I ended up going with what made the most sense for the story and not necessarily like what was the flashiest. It's like this makes the most sense for my main character, for the story arc that I want to tell, for like the transformation that I want to see. This is good. We're good. Anyways, we're gonna get to work. We are going to be reading through chapter 1 so I can like see what I have to do, and we're gonna be writing a page or 2, connecting a page or 2 or 3, and then we're gonna edit it and then we're gonna call it done and we're gonna send it off for more feedback because I'm noticing that the more feedback I'm getting, the more like changes I need to make. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. We're gonna get to work. Let's do it. Let's start rewriting my book. Episode 1, Diary 1, Chapter 1. Let's get to work. One of the things I've noticed in all of my rewriting and editing and all of that kind of stuff is that because I've rewritten things so many times, I've said the same thing in like 10 different ways. And so in combining things, I'm like having to go through and highlight anything that's like, oh, this was from a previous version, but like I basically said the same thing, but something slightly different. I'm trying to decide like which ones I like the best. And that's a large part of my editing when I've written so many different versions of everything. So that's what we're doing right now. I was just going through the beginning of chapter again and double checking what it said, and there was a part I had like left off on where I was like, oh, I really liked this from another version, this whole like sequence of a paragraph or something, and I wanted to see if I could fit it in here. I was like, oh, we should just put it right here. And then I kept reading and I said some things slightly similar but just not as like detailed, and I'm like, that's why I didn't put it in here last time I was writing. I decided we don't need it yet, we'll put it later. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing, and I'm like just highlighting things right now, or like underlining it, bolding it, and being like, these are similar, like look at these, you know, for later. So keep reading, and I need to stop just making changes to stuff that I've already like gone through with other people. Just take a breath. I'm getting too excited. I just want this chapter to be done so I can tell them like, okay, let's do this, change this, do this, change this, rewrite this, add this. It'll be great. We're almost done. To take a breath, but we're getting there. Little update. I have been writing the like piece that was kind of missing so that I can weave this little subplot in a little bit better from the start. I have written, let me see, how many words have I written? I put them in Scrivener. Okay, I've written 377 words, and I also took a little break and had lunch. So this is where we're at. I'm not quite done with this sequence. I probably need maybe another 300 words or at least another 200, something like that. And then I can connect it to a scene like I already wrote. So we're getting there. We've made progress. It's not edited really because I just wrote it. So we're gonna have to go through it and edit and change it all. But I would like to be able to read through start to finish of the chapter by the end of the day today. So that's where I'm at. And we're gonna get back to work, listening to lots of classical music, and it's been very helpful to keep me focused. So a little update on my chapter 1 edits. I haven't been filming much, but I am about to finish the edits and I wanted to say what I've been doing and we can do the last little bit together. So basically, I ended up getting to a point where I was printing out the copies. So this is the second version. I did a third and now I'm on the fourth. I finished the third version yesterday and I've been working on the fourth version today. This is like the it version for now. So basically I just go through and I cut stuff, change things, wrote little notes, and then I would go through and I would highlight each of them once I did the change. So there's still a few tiny little things from earlier versions that I hadn't finished, like some edits. So I'm gonna be working on the very end of this, the last page of my first chapter. I just have some kind of like repeating words, repeating sentences. I would say from what I understand, I'm not an editor, but from what I've been doing, it is line editing. So I've been going through every line of my work, reading it, reading out loud. I've been looking for echoes or repetitions, using the same kind of nouns or phrasing anywhere in the sentence. Also trying to cut out anything that I feel like I've kind of explained already, or I could like combine things like that. I have gone through and really adjusted the dialogue and the dialogue tags and kind of formatted it more so that it kind of is spaced out a little bit more and not in a regular paragraph. I added a lot of physical body language gestures instead of saying she seems surprised or something like that. Like I had people raise their eyebrows. Yeah, like a lot more physical things. I did some things for emphasis, kind of like paragraph, 1 sentence per line to like really emphasize something. What else have I been doing? Mostly just trying to make sure that what I'm saying, like that things have multiple purposes. I think that this could probably be trimmed down later after I get feedback on just like the general storyline. The only problem I'm having right now, there's one line on the 13th page and I really don't want my first chapter to be that long. I would rather it be a little shorter, and the thing that I don't like that's happening is I just looked and it's like 4 or 5 pages before there's any dialogue with another human being. So I don't know, I have to think about that. There's like a little bit of backstory and history kind of being woven into like the environment that my character is in, and maybe there's a way to weave in some of that in the second chapter and take some of this out, and then it would kind of shorten up the chapter. But I kind of need to look at the 2 chapters side by side, I think, first to like see how that would go. And I'm just not going to worry about it for this round of edits because I'm going to send it off to a bunch of different people to read and upload it, I think, to Critique Circle to just get some outsider feedback on the opening chapter and see if there's any like red flag things that I'm not noticing. Yeah. So that's where we're at, but I'm just on the end. I have to try to fix this last paragraph because I have 2 sentences. One says, "It caused a pang of sadness to jolt through me as I thought of someone like Fia never experiencing that simple pleasure." But then the next sentence is, "I swallowed down the sadness brimming within me." I think that's the start of the sentence. And so I don't need all of those things together. I need to cut out the word sadness from one of those and then maybe just like rework this little section together. I think it's too long. I think I can combine these 2 sentences a little bit or make the next one shorter. I don't know. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm working on right now. And I'm going to do one last read through and then I'm going to send it to people. And that is all we're probably gonna do today, and that'll probably be it for this video. So I'm gonna film myself reading this and I'll let you know how the ending goes, what I end up writing. So yeah, I've seen people do videos where they kind of show like different draft versions, and maybe this would be like the best to do at the end when my book is complete and show like early drafts of like how the book started and then later. But even just like this is 3 different versions of this one chapter. Like 3 or 4, I think I have 4 different versions of this one chapter right here. And the changes that happened, I guess, is that interesting to see like how things change in the editing process? Like the wording goes to, it could be. I feel like I'm feeling much better about this now. I'm feeling like I like it a lot more, and I don't feel as like nervous about showing it to people because it feels like something I can be proud of. It feels like what I want to say, but like I know I could probably say some stuff better. So I'm very open to like opinions about it. But I think before the opening chapters were just like nothing like what I wanted them to be. So then people giving me opinions would just not be helpful because it wasn't what I wanted. So now it's like, it's what I want. The only other thoughts I've had of what I want to add to this chapter potentially are any other ways to slip like personality things into it. I've been looking through some of my favorite books and I think I'm gonna need some like beta reader feedback for comp authors because my writing is just like so new. I have thoughts on who are similar, and one to me that's kind of similar to my writing is Rebecca Ross. She writes very whimsical things which are so beautiful. I don't feel like my writing is as beautiful as Rebecca Ross's, but I feel like I tend to lean more towards some prose like what she writes, where it's kind of like a more artsy or like whimsical metaphorical way of saying doing something. Like I have this whole sequence in the very beginning of the book where instead of saying that basically right now the time of day is going from like bright afternoon sun into dusk and nighttime, and I word it in a very like artsy kind of way that also matches like the historical context of my book, which is like ancient Egyptian setting, you know, so I use a lot of Egyptian gods in it and just kind of like some wording like that would live in like the world that we're in. This is like a whole different, you know, this is like almost like World War I England era historical fantasy, but not. So it's like very different. But I feel like I try to write a little bit more like this, but I like feel like unworthy of like comparing my writing to Rebecca Ross. So, and I know I need to find indie authors to compare my work to, but I really have been struggling because I don't write what a lot of the very popular like fantasy romance stuff is in the indie world. So I need to keep reading and finding comp authors. The other book that I feel like has like a similar vibe, not a similar setting, but a similar vibe right now is A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen. I guess this and this book are more what I want my writing to be like. I really like the way that Sarah J Maas writes characters and like romance, and the way that she like is very character driven, and I feel like that's something I strive to be like in my writing. So that's kind of like where I'm at with like comp things, but I feel like it's like, how do you just say, oh yeah, this is what my writing is like? I feel like other people have to tell you kind of like what it reminds them of, and all of these are like just very, very popular, like talented, very successful, traditionally published writers. And so I'm nowhere, this is my first book, I'm like nowhere on the caliber. The people who've written like 16, 20 books, New York Times bestseller list, like we're not the same. So I don't like comparing myself to them, but I keep being told I need comp titles, comp authors for marketing and like being able to explain to new readers what kind of vibes they're gonna get. My books will never be like the super spicy, and they're never gonna be super dark. Like they're gonna have very dark elements sometimes, but they're just not gonna be some of what I've read. And they're also never gonna be like bully romance vibes of like Zodiac Academy, or like there was a new one I looked at reading recently, Of Wings something, this one by, I think her name's Briar Bolin, but I kept hearing it's very like bully style in an academy where he like hates her and like does terrible things to her, and like that'll just never be in my writing. And like those are some of the books that are like very popular right now in like the indie sphere, or it's not indie anymore, I think it is now trad published, but a lot of the books that I used to want to compare my book to are now trad published. So it's like, I don't know how to do this, so I guess I will have to ask. But my point was, I'm trying to add more of the whimsical, artistic kind of style of writing to my book and make sure that's in there and make sure there's a lot of personality. I was reading this book and comparing it to mine, and the first like page or two of both the prologue and the first chapter are just like so beautiful. Like I'll put this up on the screen, but this is like one of my favorite things, this like lighting, the way she describes this. It was eventide, the moment between darkness and light, when the constellations began to dust the sky and the city lamps flickered to life in reply. And she just has like such a beautiful way of saying things like that. And like these first two lines, I'll put it right here. Iris dashed through the rain with a broken high heel and a tattered trench coat. Like I feel like I just get the character's personality like right from the jump. And then the second line, hope was beating wildly in her chest, granting her speed and luck as she crossed the tram tracks downtown. Like in the whole paragraph, it's like you get so much about her personality, about her life and the setting. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure if mine does quite that. Like the jury's still out on the first paragraph. I like some of what I have, but I also feel like I could potentially make it more personality driven, or like maybe just changing the first sentence. But I guess I can show what my first paragraph is. It is right here. So I feel like it tells you where we are. It gives you like a sense of the time of day. It's like very clear that she's a like seamstress, but like because it's not a third person story, we can't say her name and like I'm not watching her from the outside, so it's a little bit different. But I'm gonna get some feedback first. If you guys have any feedback, please tell me. So that is my first paragraph right now, and it has been for a significant chunk of time in the editing process right now. Maybe for the last month or two, that's been it. And then a little clunkier version existed before this. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna get to work and then I will tell you when I'm done.